To start off with, learners are going to need to do a simple line drawing of their object. Now, I must warn you that they can take the whole lesson once again doing a line drawing that they want to do perfectly. I have to admit, I actually traced my original contour line drawing, this one, because it worked for me. So as a teacher, you're going to need to be a little bit inventive as to how to get this line drawing fairly quickly without them spending the whole lesson just doing the line drawing. I have done it quite darkly so that you can see the simplicity of the lines and what's expected. But if you could ask them to do it very, very lightly, because the pencil lines are not going to be the main focus. The focus is going to be on color. And we are also going to focus on contrast and tonal contrast. So they need to get their line drawing together, and again, a piece of paper that they can press on so that they don't smudge their work. I'm not going to use it in the demonstration, as I'd like you to see as much as possible. And again, as many different kinds of colors as they've got to work with. And they're going to be starting with layers. So here is my object. We've got my object here, and that is going to be placed. I happen to have used the same position each time. I want to see how that comes out in a collage, but they can place it differently if they want. It just creates a little bit more of a challenge. So your object will be in a position that is where they want it to be. And I've actually done most of the coloring of this object. It's certainly not coloring in, it's not color by numbers. And I have used my textured work. Okay, so the textured work is the one that's kind of been my main inspiration. And I'm going to be bringing tone in. So just to give you an idea of what I've worked on so far, I've been looking at different colors. I didn't have really, there were very unusual colors in this particular shoe. So the idea is I've chosen as many different ones as possible, and I'm going to just integrate these a little bit. So the colors look pretty separate. So integrating a work means pulling it together. It means repeating colors in different places so that the work actually starts to become unified. So what I would probably choose to do, or what I am doing, is to take some of this blue into this green. So in other words, I'm starting to include, now they are grade 6 and many of them won't necessarily have developed enough of an eye to be able to integrate too easily. But as teachers, you need to know how to do this. You need to know that, you know, a plain kind of greeny band can actually include blues and all sorts of different colors. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of exploring a lost and found feeling with my shoe, and basically because I've already completed a lot of the textures, I'm now just integrating it by bringing in contrast. I want to keep parts of my shoe light, so the light source is coming from that direction. So this part of the shoe I want to keep light, that part of the shoe I want to keep dark, and then I'm going to be sort of weaving my way over my shoe, bringing in and repeating different colors in places so that the work starts to feel integrated. And then every now and again I'm going to come in and I'm going to test, is this the color blue that I want, or is this the color blue? I want a lighter blue, and so I'm going to stick with this blue. So I want to bring some of this blue into this part of the shoe. I mean, on the one hand, you don't want the shoe looking all the same, but on the other hand, you know, colors can be used backwards and forwards. So here I've got cross hatching, here I've included as kind of squiggly line, here I've got hatching. To bring in detail, I mean, who says there's a wrong or right way? The little beads on the top, I'm now even bringing in some pencil to bring in some kind of detail and contrast, and I'm using a kind of a squiggly technique. So they need to learn that they don't have to do each individual bead to get this kind of impression of a beadedness. they don't have to use just one green to actually get green. They can bring in different greens to get the shadows. And again, I'm kind of working with a squiggliness. And that way we're kind of integrating these two greens. We're letting them speak to each other. And so this way, I'm kind of going backwards and forwards into my art piece. I'm trying to work as loosely as possible. I happen to have, when I do this kind of drawing, I like it to be quite detailed. Some of them are not going to want to go into this kind of detail. Everybody is completely different. And so looking at sort of certain areas of contrast. And it's actually quite a lot of fun where one can actually really get lost in the process. It can be quite a mesmerizing process. So now I'm just shading over the hatching. So you can use different kinds of textures over each other. You don't have to stick with the same ones. And I might just try, I've thought about this before. Again, I'm feeling before I'm thinking. So I'm going to bring in the blue here. And I might even bring in a little bit of a hint of this green into the actual shoe to kind of integrate the kind of beading or the woven work and the actual color of the shoe. And so I've got the kind of personality where I can go on for days going backwards and forwards, but I hope that kind of gives you an idea of how to kind of bring an artwork together by using related colors, different monochromatic colors, and by repeating colors, how it starts to become integrated. When I say I'm going to paint over it, I'm not going to use a thick paint. I'm probably going to use a food coloring, a very light wash, not quite sure which, possibly this beige color, and that is then going to be used in my artwork next week. So just finally looking at this kind of dark gray that I've used here, I'm even going to bring it into, I'm going to work with it a little bit and bring it into my blue to integrate here a little bit, so that by integrating it means the areas are not all so separate from each other. It starts to become one art piece. And I'm being very patient, going over and over. Shading is a case of going over the same area in different directions. And I'm starting to feel like it's becoming one. I hope that gives you some ideas. Each item and each textural aspect will be different according to your object. So take your time, enjoy, and really experiment and have some fun.